Greetings, my fearless frontliners, my fellow guardians of the galleries. I'm William Young, correctional officer turned correctional advocate, and well, this is my channel. If you're new here, if you're a current, aspired, retired, or soon to be retiring correctional professional, and you're looking for content that's informative, engaging, and is intended to educate and elevate the profession, then you're in the right place. If you're looking for war stories, gory war stories from somebody who actually just stood by and watched other people do the fighting, do the dirty work, then you're in the wrong place, because this channel is not that. And if you're one of my longtime subscribers, returning viewers, mwah! Thank you. I appreciate it. You're the reason that I keep creating this premium correctional content. Today, I want to start by asking you a question. How often do you actually take what you read, what you hear, what you experience, and then apply it to your life? Because, just simply reading a book, listening to a podcast, even attending a training or a conference doesn't mean a damn thing, doesn't amount to a hill of beans if you don't absorb it, if you don't think about it, if you don't figure out how to apply it, how to make it work for you. And that's why I included in my new book, the 4 R's, a structured way at the end of each chapter to digest, apply, and change based on the lessons in the book, Trained to Change. So here's the thing. And this is the very first part of the book, and everything really that I talk about, it all comes down to this: the correctional environment will change you, and that's not the question, right? The question is how it changes you and whether or not you have a say in that process. So today we're going to break down the 4 R's, which are recap, review, reflect, respond, and I'll walk you through how they work, how do you even use them, why they matter. And then we're going to take a chapter from the book, a real life example from the book, the Mop Bucket Guy, and put them into action. But before we get started, I have to give a big shout out, a big thank you to the Just Corrections Patreon community. You guys are amazing. You are the wind beneath my wings. You are the reason that I can keep this content going, and I truly appreciate your support, your absolute support. I got something itching in my back here. If you like what you're hearing, if you like what you're watching and you want to contribute, if you find value in the content and you want to contribute, then please consider joining the community, contributing to the channel. Put a link in the description below, or you can just hit that thank you button right there that you see underneath my beard. All right, let's get into it. So let's talk about the 4 R's. Let's break these down one by one, because they're not just steps, right? They're a process. And if you do them, if you use them right, they can help you do something that a lot of us in this field struggle with, right? Learning from our own experiences. So let's start with the first one, which is recap. What the heck just happened? The first step is simple. It's just going to be a quick summary, a refresher, right, to what you just read, what you heard, what you experienced, and why, right? Because repetition is the key to remembering. So have you ever read something, you got distracted, you realize you don't even remember what the hell you just read, right? Exactly. That's why we recap. That's what recap looks like. So we can lock in the information, and then we're going to review it. So we're going to recap it. We're going to lock it in. We're going to review it. Do I understand what I just read? So now we're going to test your knowledge. What are the key takeaways? What concepts stuck with you? And this is not going to be about memorization, right? There's no test. It's about making sure you actually get it, that you actually understood what you just read, and then we're going to reflect. We're going to reflect by asking ourselves, how does this apply to me? And this is where this is going to get personal. This is where the information is going to start to sink in. Reflection is, in this book, about connecting the dots between the information and between your own life. How does this relate to what I've been through? Have I seen this before? Where have you seen this before? How does this show up in your daily routine? So that's the reflection part, and then we're going to respond. This is your call to action. What am I going to do with this? This is probably the most important part, right? Taking action. It's one thing to recognize a pattern, to understand that you have a problem. It's another thing to do something about it. So this is where we're going to build a plan, a strategy for actually applying what we've learned in the book. All right, so you got that? Are you taking notes? We're going to get into it. Now, Do you guys ever feel like this job is changing you, like the weight of the walls are pressing in and you're not necessarily the same person who walked through those gates? Well, you're not imagining things. Corrections, the training, the trauma, the time that we spend inside rewires the way we think, react, and the way we see the world. And that's exactly why I wrote my new book, Trained to Change: The Unfortunate and Unintentional Consequences of the Correctional Curriculum. It's a deep dive into how this career shapes us mentally, emotionally, spiritually, physically, and more important, how we take back control. So whether you're a rookie or a veteran, this book right here, this tool, will help you recognize the hidden impacts of the job and give you the tools to push back, stay sharp, and protect your well-being if you're in this profession, or you know somebody who is. Grab this book, read this book, use this book as a tool to educate and elevate yourself and the profession. Get your copy of Trained to Change today, available on Amazon. I'll throw the link in the description. Start taking control of your story today. And hey, if you've already read it, leave me a review and let me know what you think. Let's start changing the conversation about mental health and corrections, normalizing the conversation in mental health and corrections together. Let's put the process into action, and we're going to use a step from the book, Trained to Change, chapter 10, okay, page 89 if you're following it at home. And we're going to start with the Mop Bucket Guy story. And for those of you who don't have the book, who haven't you read the book yet, shame on you. Go get it, order it. I'll give you a pass this time. But next time, you'll need to be a little bit better prepared. Bring all your materials to class, right? So I'm kidding, all right? It's a joke, bro. Chill out a little bit. So here's the short version of the story. This chapter is about a moment in my life where I lost my shit in public. One of the many moments in my life where I lost my shit in public over nothing. Because of my Trained Correctional Perspective, or my TCP, which I also talk about in the book, it told me a completely different story than what was actually happening. So here's the Reader's Digest version. I was coaching basketball, and there was a guy at the basketball game, a man who, funny, and a spoiler alert, I found out later he was a cop volunteering to sanitize the gym between games. This was during COVID, during the pandemic. And he was yelling at everybody to clear out. And in my mind, right, he wasn't a volunteer. He wasn't a cop. He was just acting and reminding me of an inmate. He reminded me of a porter, of a trustee standing in the middle of the day room, like yelling at the different inmates on the tier. And oh my gosh, that is so annoying. So my training kicked in, right? My experiences took over, my emotions took over. And before I knew it, I was staring this guy down. I was establishing dominance because I'm the alpha, because you don't disrespect me, because in corrections, you don't let people disrespect you. You can't afford to let people disrespect you. You control the room. You control the situation, except I wasn't at work. I was at a kid's basketball game, and my TCP made me react as if I was still inside. I'm going to read just a section of this for you guys so you understand what the TCP looks like if you haven't read the book yet, all right? So the guy's standing there. He's yelling at me. And if you let one inmate disrespect you, then all the inmates disrespect you, and it looks a little something like this. So you ready? This is my brain. This is the spiral. This is my perspective based on my training, the time, the trauma. It all goes into this, right? Why is this guy yelling? It's a kid's basketball game, bro. It's not that serious. Stop yelling. Oh my gosh, look at that dude and the way he's leaning on the mop like he's a fucking porter. He probably was a porter. This is my brain. This is the spiral. He probably was a porter. Do I recognize him? Does he recognize me? Does he really think that he can just yell and bark orders at me because I'm in charge? I'm in charge, and I'll move when I'm ready to move, and if this dude don't stop yelling, I'm going to say something to him. I'm going to say something because he isn't going to disrespect me. Not in front of all these people. I'm the alpha. I run shit around here. I run things. People do what I say. It's not the other way around. I'm saying something, and he isn't going to do shit because he's some ex-inmate janitor, and I'm the officer, and I'm not going to let him disrespect me, because if I let this clown disrespect me, then everyone will, and if everyone disrespects me, then my coworkers will think I'm weak, and if my coworkers think I'm weak, I'm going to have to quit, and if I have to quit, where will I go make the money that I make doing what I do? I'll lose the house, and we'll have to move, and the kids will have to transfer schools, and they'll rebel and turn to a life of crime and end up in a jumpsuit in a jail, and they'll probably become the porter, and they'll lean on the fucking mop handle like this guy. That's the TCP. That's how the correctional environment teaches us to see the world. And after a while, these things like a guy, and you'll read the story, right? The guy is just trying to do the job. He's just trying to do some things to help. My brain doesn't see it that way because of my experiences. Experiences shape who we are. So we got to recap. And that's why the 4 R's are important. That's why I put them in this book. And I'm kicking around coming out with a second version, an updated, revised version, a 5-year anniversary revision of the Nothing That Never Happened. Did I say reversion a lot? That's not even a word. Revision. Revision. Maybe reversion is a new thing. Where I add the 4 R's to this, and I updated a little bit. So if you have read the Nothing That Never Happened and you would like to read an updated version with the 4 R's in it, or you think it would be worth me putting out a new version, put it in the comments below. I'd be interested to see what you guys think. So let's do the 4 R's on the Mop Bucket Story Guy. What just happened? Let's recap what just happened. So this is what's in there, and I'm going to read this to you. In chapter 10, the author, that's me, discusses how the correctional environment can negatively affect the way correctional officers interact with others outside of work. So I put this in there because a lot of times I tell stories, I wrap kind of my lessons up in stories, and sometimes I get a little off into the weeds. And I want you to understand that's the importance of this recap. This is actually what I'm talking about. The chapter focuses on a specific incident where the author, me, who prides himself on being a great communicator at work, which I am, finds himself losing his temper with a man at a child's basketball game. The man that I nicknamed Mop Bucket Guy is seen as aggressive and disrespectful, triggering a response in the author shaped by his correctional training. The chapter explores how the intense correctional environment officers working can lead to overreactions in everyday situations. Have you guys ever experienced that? Highlighting the importance of recognizing and managing these triggers. So basically I overreacted to a situation because my mind connected to past experiences and corrections. My trained correctional perspective made me think that I was dealing with an inmate, not just a regular guy doing the job. And because of that, it caused me to freak out, to escalate something that didn't need to be escalated. So do you see that? That's the recap. So let's review. What do we understand about this? And this is where we ask ourselves some deeper questions. We're going to answer some questions. Why did I react that way? What part of my job influenced the reaction? And I ask you some of these questions in the book, right? So what was the primary reason that I lost my temper with the Mop Bucket Guy? What does the author mean when I say I was the alpha male in the building, not him? What was the surprising revelation about the Mop Bucket Guy at the end of the chapter? So I ask you some questions to go back to look to see if you really kind of understood some of that. Again, you're not graded on the test. You all pass. You're all fantastic. But there are no real answers here, right? No real right answers here. I mean, there are, but I want you to answer these based on how you feel and how you see the situation, because we're all at different points. We all have different experiences. So answer them how you want to answer them, and then we're going to reflect. So we've recapped, we've reviewed, now we're going to reflect. How the hell does this apply to me? Have you ever had a moment, right? So this is we're going to, in the context of Mop Bucket Guy. Have you ever had a moment where your work mindset followed you home, where you responded to your spouse, your kids, a stranger, like you were still at work in the facility? This right here, this will be the part where you read and then you sit with these moments and you recognize, like, how often do they happen, right? And again, we're not going to go through all of these, but I'll read them. And you know what? If you want to drop your answers in the comments, you certainly could. I love your feedback. I'll be looking for the feedback. Unless it's about my beard or my bulging eyes or my annoying voice, you guys can keep that to yourself. So the questions in the book: can you recall a time when you overreacted to a situation outside of work? Do you know what your triggers were? How do you think your professional training affects your personal interactions? In what ways might your professional perspective be affecting your relationships with friends or family? Guys, there's 5 or 6 of these questions in there. There's 5 or 6 of these questions at the end of every chapter. Again, this book here, and I didn't intend this video to be just a commercial for the book, but this video, this book is not just a book, right? I just didn't want to share more stories with you. I wanted to give you a tool to use, to take with you, to really kind of work through some of these concepts that I talk about, so we can sort of take that next step, right? So after you do that, after we've recapped, reviewed, reflected, now we're going to respond, and that's the call to action. That's what the heck are you going to do about it? And this is where change happens. This is where change starts, right? So what's your plan? The next time you feel yourself getting triggered, what's your strategy? Do you take a breath? Do you remind yourself that you're not at work? Do you separate the moment from past experiences that you're trying to shape? The book says, the wording in the book says, reflect on a recent situation where you felt triggered or you overreacted in your personal life. Write out a plan, right? Write out a plan for how you can apply these strategies discussed in the chapter to better manage your emotions and reactions in similar situations in the future. And then you have the opportunity to write that down. And so when you have another situation like this, or again, we talked about this before, if you wanted to write down what you wanted to do, if you wanted to write down your feelings and answer some of these questions, and then you give this book to your spouse, you give this book to your friend, and you say, here, this is what I'm thinking about. This is what's going on in my mind. This is what I'd like you to help me with. You can use this, folks, as a tool to help you navigate the craziness that is the correctional career. And this is what the 4 R's are about. This is why they're in the book, because this information, really all information, is worthless if you don't apply it. So here's the big takeaway. Here's the key takeaway. All the BDAs use key takeaways, right? Learning isn't just about gathering information. It's about applying it. It's about recognizing how the job is shaping you and making the conscious effort to control, the conscious choice to control how that happens. And every chapter in Trained to Change has the 4 R's for a reason, because I don't want you to just read the book. I want you to use the book. All right, guys, thanks for hanging out with us today. Thank you for listening, for watching this episode of the podcast. New episodes will be cranked out daily, 4 p.m. Central Standard Time. Set a reminder on your phone. Set a reminder on your calendar so you never miss an episode. And make sure you subscribe to the show. Follow the show on YouTube or whatever podcast platform you prefer. You can also follow us on Facebook, X, Instagram, LinkedIn, whatever. Leave a comment. I want you to get involved. I want you to stay engaged. Share the show with your friends, your family, your fellow correctional professionals, everybody that you know, the Just Corrections podcast, Just Corrections YouTube channel. And if you're interested in supporting the show, then become a member of the Just Corrections Patreon community. There are a couple of different tiers, different options. So check that out. I'll leave a description. There'll be a description, but there'll also be a link in the description to the page, whatever. Check out the books, guys. Both books available on Amazon. The Nothing That Never Happened, Trained to Change, and When Home Becomes a Housing Unit. They're all there. They're all in the description. And if you'd like to bring me out to speak or present at your facility or your event, send me an email at justcorrections.booking@gmail.com. All right, guys, that's all I got. Until next time, be smart, stay safe, stay sane, and we'll talk soon.